Welcome to Spurs Focus, your go-to spot for daily Tottenham news, transfers, and match updates. Don't forget to support the channel by hitting that subscribe button now. Let's dive into today's top story. Tottenham beat Doncaster 3-0 in the Carabao Cup with goals from João Palhinha, an own goal, and Brennan Johnson. It marked Thomas Frank's fifth win and fifth clean sheet in 7 games, showing Spurs' strong Tottenham's start under Thomas Frank continues to show that foundations are being built by the Dane. This latest victory, albeit achieved with an uneven performance, means Frank has overseen 5 victories and 5 clean sheets in his 7 competitive matches since the Premier League season kicked off, with 1 draw, 1 defeat, and 14 goals scored across all competitions. You could sling the UEFA Super Cup against PSG in there as well if you wanted to, and depending on your outlook you might see that as a defeat, a draw before penalties or 5 minutes from a victory, and a clean sheet. Of course, almost does not mean achieved. Wednesday night's 3-0 Carabao Cup victory over League One side Doncaster Rovers was played out in front of a crowd of just 42,473, as around 20,000 Spurs supporters decided it wasn't for them, either due to the ticket pricing or simply a late night return from North London. Those present got to see a small collection of good moments sprinkled across a team performance that dipped heavily in the second half, but was enough to see off a visiting team sitting 7th 2 divisions below. In essence, 3 moments of real quality showcased the difference in levels between the two sides, as Doncaster played well otherwise. Spurs opened the scoring just 14 minutes in. Despite being selected at centre-back by Frank, João Palhinha showed his ability at the other end of the pitch with an acrobatic overhead kick after a Xavi Simons corner was only partially cleared to the Portuguese 8 yards out. Within 3 minutes, the host had doubled their tally as Wilson Odobert burst down the left flank and into the box with stepovers galore, and his low cross struck Doncaster defender Jay McGrath and deflected into the net for an own goal. Archie Gray forced Rovers keeper Ian Lawler into a flying save before the visiting skipper Owen Bailey brought the same result at the other end when his volley was magnificently pushed onto the left-hand post by Spurs stopper Antonin Kinski. Chances were few and far between in a mostly dull second 45 minutes, aside from a Glenn Middleton free kick that curled inches wide of the right-hand post after a foul given against Kevin Danso that came despite the ball cleanly being won. Brennan Johnson was Tottenham's most dangerous player in that second period, and after teeing up opportunities for both Mathys Tel and substitute Richarlison, the Wales international duly rounded off the scoring himself by running between defenders onto Lucas Bergvall's perfect pass and chipping over the onrushing goalkeeper in added time. First and foremost, happy with the win, happy with the clean sheet, and happy that we are through to the next round. That was the aim, Frank told Football.London. I think the first half was good. Controlled the game, created chances that we wanted and needed. I think we could have scored more goals in the first half, actually. Got some big opportunities to Mathys Tel, Rodri, and a few other situations that were dangerous. Second half was more disjointed. I think we threw the ball away too easily. The pressure was not top, but also praise to Doncaster. They came very brave, very good to stretchers. So if the pressure is not perfect, they made it difficult. So praise to them as well. The scoreline was harsh on Rovers, who deserved at least a goal from the game. Spurs had given them permission to use their on-loan Tottenham youngster Damola Ajayi, and the 19-year-old right-winger had his moments, including a volley that Toyosi Olusanya headed wide in the first half. However, he and Doncaster were unable to find a way through, which brought the obligatory DJ Ed Spence post on Instagram to his young teammate. "I'm sorry, Lil bro." Welcome to the penitentiary that came complete with a mocked-up image of Ajayi behind bars with Spence smiling in front of them. His teammate took it well in the comments underneath, with a Neil Warnock gif that would have brought back some memories for the fullback. When the team was announced ahead of kickoff, the expectation was that due to injuries to various centre-backs, Archie Gray would be returning to his centre-back role of last season, while João Palhinha would line up in the midfield alongside Rodrigo Bentancur and Xavi. However, Frank soon confirmed it was the other way around in his pre-match interview, meaning a rare outing for the Portuguese in defence, with the 19-year-old Gray getting to continue his development in the centre of the pitch. The idea presumably was that Spurs would have more of the ball, so Palhinha would be called upon to pass more than defend. That wasn't actually the case, with the possession stats not reflecting the two teams' different levels in the football pyramid, as the Premier League side only shaded it with 54.9%. Palhinha had to defend and he contributed 6 clearances, 2 tackles and 1 interception. Of the Spurs players, only Kevin Danso bettered that. Despite spending a chunk of time off the pitch in the first half getting a cut head glued up, as the Austria international managed 7 clearances, 4 ball recoveries, 2 blocks and 2 tackles. Palhinha did what was asked of him, bringing the ball up the pitch at times, and also joining up with the attack, none more so than with his excellent overhead kick. The 30-year-old is looking like the bargain of the summer window, with his loan move from Bayern, and if he continues in this vein, then that £27 million option to buy him will be a no-brainer for Spurs, even if it goes against their old transfer ways. It will be a good litmus test for the new regime at the top. I'm very happy with his performance. He has been very good for us since he joined us, Frank told Football.London of Palhinha, again just stepping into that centre-back role, and played very well, and scored a very good goal. So yeah, pleased. I think Archie can play centre-back and right-back, but I see him more as a midfielder, and I'd like to see him today in that position. I was confident, and I was happy that I was backed in that feeling about João as a centre-back. Gray took the chance to impress, growing into the game as it progressed, and his movement really caught the eye. The teenager has had to be more patient this season, after a previous campaign in which he was thrown into the fray in an unnatural position, out of necessity, and played 46 times, mostly as an 18-year-old. This season has brought just the 4 appearances so far, but he has mostly impressed in those games, with the start against Burnley in the opening Premier League game, as well as a strong pre-season showing against Newcastle. His latest performance brought an all-action display that continues to prove that Gray may well end up as an 8 rather than a 6. His movement in linking up with the attackers, and captain for the day, Pedro Porro, was terrific, and the youngster thought he had opened the scoring with a low curling shot that Lawler pushed away. Don't underestimate the fact that Gray has finally been able to train full-time as a midfielder this season at Tottenham, and develop that way after spending much of the last campaign being drilled by Matt Wells and the coaching staff alongside the back 4 to be an emergency centre-back. Gray has such a high ceiling, and he admitted after the match in his club interview that he wants to bring the more attacking elements back into his game when asked what he wants to add to his weaponry. I think just getting stuff back from when I was younger, because obviously I didn't play in midfield too much recently, and I think just scoring goals and being more of a creative player further up the pitch, which was always my style of play when I was younger. He said, "I know people haven't seen it much, because I haven't really played in midfield much. At Leeds at the start of the season when I was there, obviously they saw that. But I just want to show that here, and every minute that I get, I just want to try and show that." There's plenty more to come from Gray, and with Bergvall, who produced a top draw pass for Johnson's added time goal, Spurs have a couple of stars for years to come among their midfield options. This was Mathys Tell's chance. You could sense the desperation to impress wafting off the Frenchman, because chances may be few and far between from this point, particularly when Randall Kolomuani's dead leg rises from the grave. A struggle for opportunities to play sounds crazy when you factor in that he was a £30 million player signing this summer. But that decision to leave him out of the Champions League and Spurs facing a tough away trip to Newcastle in the next round of the Carabao Cup means the games may dry up for the 20-year-old Frenchman. Injuries could well change that and the heavy schedule in the coming months. But this felt like a big night for Tell and for everything he did well off the ball, including some clever, quick link-up play. He fluffed his lines in front of goal as chances for a hat-trick went begging. Brennan Johnson, in particular, did everything possible to try to set Tell up with low passes into the 6-yard box that were begging to be slammed into the net. The first of which may have surprised the France U21 international, because it looked like the defender might get there first, but the top strikers react and improvise quickly. Tell sent another strike over from close range and powered an effort from outside the box towards the goal that Lawler pushed away. Harry Kane's £54 million release clause has sparked talk of a Premier League return, with Tottenham boss Thomas Frank admitting he'd love Kane back. However, Bayern Munich coach Vincent Kompany and director Max Ebel insist Kane is fully focused on winning titles in Germany. Despite speculation, the striker has started the season on fire, scoring 13 goals in 7 games. Harry Kane would have to make it clear to Bayern Munich that he wanted to move to Tottenham for any such transfer to take place. Bayern boss Vincent Kompany is only focused on winning titles with his star striker and believes that remains his motivation. Scrutiny has started to build over Kane's future and a possible return to the Premier League, amid a £54 million release clause that can become active should the ex-Spurs man inform the Bundesliga giants in January of his desire to leave next summer. Kane is under contract until 2027 after signing from Tottenham for £86.4 million in 2023. Spurs have a buyback option for the forward, but Bayern Chiefs are content with the player's future being in his own hands. Tottenham boss Thomas Frank was asked about the prospect of signing Kane in the wake of the news and indicated his interest. Kompany has now made his own stance very clear. He's in an excellent phase, and the last thing I want to do is to open the door to a different discussion, the Belgian coach said. The only thing I always see with Harry is that he wants to win titles, and he can do that at Bayern. That's the only focus. Bayern's board member for sport, Max Ebel, spoke in greater detail on the situation and also highlighted the opportunities for silverware. I think that at his age, he is still making huge progress as a personality on the pitch, he said. At Tottenham, of course, we all knew him from scoring goals, but I think the way he's playing football in this team right now, not just scoring goals, but as a player, as a leader on the pitch and sacrificing himself for the team shows what I've been saying. He wants to win titles, that's what hunger is. He can do that with us. We want to do that with him. He's old enough to make his own decisions, whether he has a clause or not. If he says, I want to make a decision as he showed at Tottenham, then he will make that decision. But of course, our wish is to have a very, very successful season with him and in the future. Spurs coach Frank could not help but declare his interest in a possible return for Kane. The 32-year-old has already bagged 13 goals in 7 appearances this season. However, the ex-Brentford boss was not confident that any deal was imminent, given Kane's success in Germany. He is an unbelievable player who did fantastic for Spurs and is doing fantastic for Bayern. Top player. I think there's a lot of Tottenham fans, including myself, who would like to see Kane back, Frank said. Personally, I don't think he will do it right now if I'm honest. He'll probably stay in Bayern and continue performing well. He was top scorer last year, won the championship, and he's doing fantastic now.